So what are we actually doing today?
We're going to make some apple cider, some hard apple cider. And to do that, we got to pick some apples. So we got the little John Deere tractor. We're going to go up in the bucket, pick a bunch of apples right off the tree, and we're going to make them into apple cider. Next step in our process is to just cut the cores out of the apples. And the reason we do this is so that we can feed the apple mush to the chickens, because the apple seeds aren't good for the chickens. So we could just half them and juice them like that, but we like to feed the stuff that's left over to the animals. And you can see that the apples are not perfect. There's spots on the apples. We don't use any chemicals on our apples because we don't want to do anything that would harm our beads. So it's completely chemical free. We put a little bit of chicken manure on the roots of the apple trees every year to make them grow, and we prune the trees in the winter, and it makes beautiful, delicious Ontario apples. The apple cores will go in another bucket, and we'll add some water and some sugar, and we'll let them do 2 different fermentation processes to make apple cider vinegar. This is apple cores. We're just pouring them in a bucket here, about half full, and then I'm going to get some water, just enough water. This is just tap water. What our tap water, of course, it's from a well, so it doesn't have any chlorine in it. And I'm just going to cover the apples with enough water, and then add a couple cups of sugar in and let them ferment, and it'll make apple cider vinegar.
Do you have to add yeast for that process?
No, you don't have to. It just uses naturally occurring yeasts that are on the skins of the apples. And so it'll ferment first and turn it into a weak apple cider, and then we'll pour the liquid off the apple cores, and then it'll go through a second, I think it's an acetic fermentation, and it'll begin producing apple cider vinegar. And so you let it go until it's strong enough, and then we put it in jars and put it in the fridge. Water cover those apple cores. I like to add about a cup of sugar for every gallon of water. So we'll call that 3 gallons of water. We'll do 1 cup of sugar, 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups of sugar. Stir with a spurtle made by Papa Don. And then we'll put the lid on with the airlock, and we'll let it ferment. Meanwhile, here's a bucket that's gone through the process already. First fermentation process. So we're just gonna, and you can smell the alcohol in it right now.
Yeah.
We're just gonna pour the liquid off into a bucket.
So what is that liquid that's pouring out now? Is that vinegar ready to go, or is what's going to happen?
No, it's more like apple cider. It's starting to become vinegar, but it's gone through the first fermentation and it's got some light alcohol smell to it right now. And then it'll go through the second fermentation to become vinegar. And then all of the scraps that get left over will go into the compost pile. Otherwise, we'll have drunk chickens. And we'll just return the lid to it and continue letting it ferment.
All right.
And we've tried this many different ways. We've got an apple press where we've tried crushing the apples and pressing them, and it's probably much more efficient. You get more juice out of it. But we find this way is you get better juice and it's less work. You can do other things simultaneously while you're doing it. The juicer consists of a pot with water in the bottom. So we've got the heat under there, and that water will boil and steam will come up through this vent in the center of the center section.
Okay.
And it will burst the cells in the apples, and the juice will flow down into the center section, and then we can take it off through the tube here. And so out of that load of apples, we'll get approximately 1 gallon of juice. The steamer uses hot steam to dissolve the juice out of the apples, and then so you can see the apples there are becoming really mushy. Then in the second chamber here, you can see that there's juice accumulating in the bottom. You can see through the steam as I scorch my fingers. But the real way to see the juice is to look at the tube here. And so this is pasteurized, hot, fresh apple juice from the apples that we just picked a few minutes ago. So we'll let that cool for a few minutes, add some sugar and some yeast, and we'll turn that right into apple cider. Look at the beautiful color of that. Taste is just amazing. The end result is
Mush.
mush.
Can you feed it to the chickens at least?
Yeah, we put that in the feed that to the chickens. The chickens absolutely love it, but it's completely mushed, almost dry. And so what we're going to do is put that in our fermentation vessel here. And we're just going to do a small batch so that we can see what it's doing and have some good quality control. We've got some big 5-gallon carboys. We've done it in those as well. But if you have a bad batch, it goes bad, then you lose a lot of product. And so one of the things that's really important is cleanliness. So in this we have a product called Star San. It's a brewing sanitizer, and we use that to sanitize all the equipment before we start. And so this hydrometer, we're going to sanitize that and see what our specific gravity of our juice is.
So what's that going to do?
It's going to tell us how much sugar we need to add in order to bring the alcohol up to about 5 or 6%. And so see the alcohol by volume over here where it says 10%, 5%. Right now we're almost floating at 5%. So what we're going to do is we're going to add sugar to it. We're going to add brown sugar. That's about 1 cup of sugar that I added. Let's give it a gentle stir to dissolve it here. And you'll see that our hydrometer now is floating a little bit higher in the pot here. We'll just stop it there, give it a spin, and see where it stops. It's stopping at about on about 70, whatever that measurement is, or about 7% alcohol by volume. So that's perfect right there.
The sweet spot.
That's about what we would like. It's about 7% alcohol by volume. This is a yeast called Classic 8 Turbo yeast. I think we're going to use about 1 tablespoon. And we're just going to sprinkle that on top of our mix there. Sanitized fork. And so this is a fermenting airlock.
So what did you just put in that?
I just put some star sand in that, and that just prevents anything that's in the air from going back into the fermentation.
Okay.
And so this will now ferment for about 2 weeks, and the yeast will eat the sugar in the mix and produce alcohol in the process. So once the yeast has eaten all the sugar, we should have a nice alcoholic, slightly carbonated cider, and we can bottle it. Juice, hot juice. Pour it in there. Take one that's already cooled off a bit. Put that in. Just going to leave a little bit of space so that we can add some brown sugar. Give it a little stir.
What do we say in there?
And almost exactly the same. I might just add a wee bit more sugar to it. So we're right at 70. So that's about perfect. That should give us 7% alcohol by volume, half a tablespoon of yeast. This one's a little warmer than our last one. a better satisfying
That
pop.
one.
Yeah, that's through the magic of TV. We have some cider to drink here
From last year's batch.
from last year's batch. But let's have a sample here, Aidan.
All right, in our custom-made glasses too.
Cheers.
Cheers. Pretty good.
Not bad, eh?
Pretty easy to drink.
To keep us well hydrated on through the winter.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our website at bellfarm.ca. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.